Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Now, it will come, of course, as no surprise to anyone that the SNP attempted to politicise and weaponise the COVID pandemic and turn everything about it to their political advantage. But one of the little nuggets of joy that was revealed during the COVID inquiry was what we could call the Spanish problem. They used civil servants to try and influence ministers to take Spain off the banned countries list and put it onto the exempt list. They did this so as to appease Spain, to keep Spain happy, because they need Spain's approval should an independent Scotland want to join the EU. The fact is, Spain would never allow it. But that is beside the point. The point was a supposedly impartial civil service was working to the betterment of party political games of the SNP. That is against the rules. And the Tories are very angry about this, and they've written to JP Marks and they're demanding a full, serious probe and investigation over the potential breach of civil service independence. This could result in court action, firings, and a certain shake-up of senior positions, including that of JP Marks himself. It's very serious. Let's take a look to see what's going on and why the Tories are particularly angry. Here goes. So, Scottish Government civil servants could face probe over independence beliefs after the COVID inquiry evidence. It's all coming out. Everything. And what's happening here is it isn't just what we thought it would be, which would be the politicians, but the civil service, the officials. There's going to be non-government stuff. There's going to be stuff from other parties. It's all in the mix. It's all there. You need to be filtering it, sifting it, finding those, like I say, those little nuggets of gold in all this pan of crap. But they are there. The Scottish Tories have written to Permanent Secretary JP Marks to urge him to launch a probe into comments revealed at the UK COVID inquiry, which showed a senior civil service official telling SNP ministers to axe travel restrictions to Spain, as it may lead to the country stopping an independent Scotland getting into the European Union. What you have here is a supposedly independent civil service creating policy for the SNP. The civil service are not there to create policy, they're there to enact policy of the government. In this case, they're there to enact the policy that is decided upon by the SNP. They're not there to offer policy advice, to push policy, or to take sides. If they're told to do something, their job is to make it happen, regardless of whether they believe it personally or not. And so for a senior civil servant to say, well, actually, no, we can do this. Look, and then we can get independence. We get that. Then we can get in the EU because we'll have, chummed up to Spain. Not the civil service job. If he feels so strongly about the politics, he should quit the civil service and run for office. Anyway, impartial Scottish Government civil... I like the way they put the impartial in quotes. Scottish Government civil servants could face a high-level probe into their behaviour amid claims they have been politicised by the SNP, undoubtedly. And once that's found, they need to lose their jobs and pension. That's the most frightening thing for that lot. The investigation is being called for following revelations at the UK COVID inquiry that a senior bureaucrat made concerning claims in an email about breaking up the UK. Now, I'm going to suggest also that as a civil servant, and he's pushing for the breakup of the UK, that's surely got to be against his terms and conditions of his job, which is to serve the UK. So that alone must be a fireable offence, surely. The Scottish Tories claimed that some senior officials within the SNP executive have gone native following years of working with the Nationalist Party. Concerns were raised about the government's Director for External Affairs, Scott Whiteman. Humza Yousaf won't like him, will he? He's both a Scot and a white man. Anyway, he's urging ministers to scrap travel restrictions with Spain in case they held a grudge and blocked an independent Scotland from joining the EU. Spain are going to block an independent Scotland from joining the EU regardless. Thankfully, there won't be an independent Scotland, but they'll never get in. Catalonia, the Canaries, and then you got Belgium with the Walloons, you got France with Corsica. There's lots of countries that won't let Scotland join. They don't want any country breaking away from the mother country and pretending they're independent and running into the EU. On top of that, Germany won't want it, the Dutch won't want it, because Scotland will be a basket case and looking for money. They're the two biggest payer-inners at the moment. No thanks, they'll say. Anyway, Permanent Secretary JP Marks is being urged to investigate the impartiality of his staff members. They're not impartial at all. They're all. It is the SNP civil service at the end of it. He's also to look into other revelations at the UK COVID inquiry about senior members of the government. This includes former Director General for Strategy and External Affairs, Ken Thompson, boasting that plausible deniability are my middle names. Done the video on him this morning. Go and check that out. He's lost his job with the Institute of Chartered Accountants because they don't want to be associated with such a rogue, such a bad man, such a liar, you know. They're accountants. Their word is their bond. It's the very essence. If you can't trust the accountants, you're in deep trouble. And they took one look at it and went, no, bye. They gave him the face save of a resignation, but they effectively fired him. Anyway, the Tories are now also concerned about Nicola Sturgeon's former Chief of Staff Liz Lloyd attempting to provoke a rammy with the UK government, and National Clinical Director Jason Leach blasting opposition politicians with messages with Humza Yousaf. Again, Jason Leach, technically civil servant. He shouldn't be politicising, and yet they are. Liz Lloyd was hired by the government. Political, shouldn't be political, but is. These things are wrong, and yet there they are. And there's so much of it. It does need a full probe. And what's more, people need to lose both their jobs and their pensions. Because for the civil service, losing the job is bad, but losing your pension is a catastrophe because they're gold-plated. They are index-linked, gold-plated pensions. They're the best pensions around. And if you have them, you're set for life with these things. Take the pension away, and they are in tears. Anyway, he claimed that the evidence from the UK COVID inquiry highlights the nakedly political behaviour of supposedly impartial civil servants and claims there's clear evidence of officials going native and focusing on party political interests of the SNP in breach of the Civil Service Code of Conduct. They need to set up a whistleblowing thing that any civil servant can anonymously blow the whistle on another one, leading to an investigation. And if the one who's investigated is showing signs of bias, of polarisation, of being pro, and I'm just going to say pro-SNP because they happen to be in government, but when there's a Labour government, pro-Labour, whatever, then that must be an immediate sackable offence. He said, I have today written to Scotland's most senior civil servant, the Permanent Secretary, urging him to launch an investigation into the politicisation of an office which is duty-bound to be completely impartial. Much of the evidence at the UK COVID inquiry points to an alarming and unacceptable politicisation of the Scottish civil servants working for the SNP government. There's Cameron. The likes of Ken Thompson, he says, and Jason Leach appear to have been at one with Nicola Sturgeon and John Swinney when it comes to deleting WhatsApp messages, while Liz Lloyd was trying to create a political rammy with the UK government. We also learned that a senior official wrote a shameful email advocating the lifting of travel ban to Spain because of its likely impact on an independent Scotland being admitted to the EU that cannot be construed as anything other than being nakedly political. And he is absolutely right, and we've covered that letter yesterday, but he's absolutely right. These people should not be doing it. They're supposedly impartial, and they're obviously pro-SNP. They've been polluted by the cancerous tendrils of that awful party, and now they cannot help themselves but do this. And whoever comes in next as a government has two enemies. They have the opposition, and they have their own civil service that they will have to fight on every decision. I think it's time to completely change the people in the civil service in Scotland and bring in fresh people. Not saying fire them. If they have committed it, they fire the ones that have committed it, but change everyone. Remove the toxin. Spread it out and move these people around and not allow anyone promotion. Move them away. They won't like it, but then tough. Bring it on yourselves, don't you? Anyway, I shall round off there. Come up. The SNP is a toxic party and it corrupts everything. And it's corrupted now what is supposedly an impartial civil service. Heads must roll, and heads must be seen to roll. And it must be made clear that if you become anything other than independent, you will lose your job. You will be fired. You will no longer be a civil servant. You are to maintain independence. You are to do nothing party political. The moment anything is politicised, you stop, you go and speak to your line manager, you explain why you think it's party political, and then the problem's his. And if he tells you to carry on and it's then found to be party political, he loses his job. If he doesn't like it, he goes to his line manager and all the way up to John Paul Marks, who's the top civil servant in Scotland. And if he tells you to do it and it's found wrong, then he loses his job. That's the way it happens. Let the shit roll upwards for once. Thank you very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and I will speak to you later. Bye.